Hydrogen is the future. It's a perfect green fuel, as the only exhaust is pure water. Well, Shell just completed their closure of all of their hydrogen fueling stations in the UK. Have you heard these stories? What is going on? I'm Dave. Welcome to Dave Takes It On. And the answer is not as easy as you might think. There is something much deeper and more sinister at play. Find out later how much a litre of petrol actually costs to produce. That'll stun you. Well, let's look at our energy needs. We need electricity. Everything else we don't need. Now, it sounds silly, but it's absolutely everything in our modern society is designed to run on electricity. Yes, even gas boilers in our homes and the petrol cars the EV haters drive, they can't run without electricity. Your car needs starter motor, headlights and ignition and all sorts of things. In society, we need computers, streetlights, television, washing machines. None of these would run without electricity. We are totally dependent on electricity and we need lots of it. Now, to paraphrase Occam's razor, if you're not familiar with that, look it up. It states, in the absence of any other simpler solutions, the simplest solution is normally the right one. And Elon Musk parodies this. He states the simplest part is no part and the simplest process is no process. He keeps stripping out parts and processes. Keep things simple and they're more efficient, they're more reliable and probably much cheaper. So when we look for a fuel to produce the electricity our society and civilization demands, we want the simplest. And the simplest fuel is not no fuel, in this case, but the fuel that nature provides totally free of charge and totally without pollution or processing. I refer to wind, sunlight, waves, tides, and a hot planet beneath our feet. But none of those are electricity. No, of course. But each one is just a single step away from electricity. Sunlight shines on a PV panel, produces electricity. Wind blows a propeller and the attached generator produces electricity. Waves move afloat or bobbing or whatever it is up and down, and that generates electricity, and so on. The same applies to storage of electricity. We cannot store alternating current electricity, but we can store electrons chemically in batteries which provide direct current electricity. And we can simply switch between the two, AC and DC, with a simple transformer. Again, no moving parts, no fuel needed. In all cases, the simplest source of electricity would be to use the fuel that nature provides. The cheapest form of electricity will be using a free and readily available fuel that nature provides. And the least polluting fuel would be the one you don't need to burn. Wind blows through a turbine, which removes some of the energy, and the rest of it carries on its journey. Sunlight hits the PV panel, some of it is converted into electricity, the rest just goes on doing what it was going to do anyway. Zero pollution, zero fuel cost. So why are people so absolutely set on hydrogen? Well, instead of looking at the making and using of hydrogen, let's just explore why people want hydrogen. And the answer will not be what you expect, nowhere near. Now let's just take a scenario. I have solar PV panels on my roof at home and a storage battery in the garage. When the sun shines, I get free electricity for the house and I store the rest for later use. When I get home, I plug my EV into my battery and the car charges up free. Can anyone out there explain why I would want hydrogen or petrol or diesel or nuclear or biomass or anything at all? In fact, it's an absolutely stupid question. I don't. Now let's head off into the realms of fantasy, or hopefully what I call the future. Let's say we install mega amounts of PV panels, wind turbines, tidal turbines, geothermal heat exchangers and the like. And to soak up the excess produced every single day, we install mega batteries, enough to store our total country usage for a week in case the sun doesn't shine or the wind doesn't blow or the waves don't wave. How much then would it cost the country to produce 1 kilowatt of electricity? Well, it's a trick question because the answer is nothing at all. Yes, we had to buy and build the systems, the panels, the turbines, but once installed, they cost nothing to produce electricity. What about maintenance and servicing? Yeah, they need that, but that's not to produce electricity. That's to make sure that they keep the equipment running that does use the free fuel so that can produce electricity, which is being produced for free. So back to the capital cost. Answer me this, which is cheaper? Spending a fortune building a power station that runs on gas that you have to buy for every single kilowatt of electricity it produces, or building a renewable farm that uses free energy, wind, light, waves, tide. And before someone says a gas-fired power station feeds thousands, hundreds of thousands of homes and a wind farm only a few hundred, I answer that with, well, just build bigger wind farms or wave machines. We have thousands of miles of coastline, and the offshore sea is usually only a few hundred feet deep. We already have masses of oil rigs out there, pipelines, and many massive wind farms right out there in the North Sea. Most people can't even see them. Let's build far more wind farms, far more PV panels. Let's get every house with PV panels on the roof. Let's build the wave farms. Let's install tidal turbines, because the tides are regular as clockwork, twice a day, and the power of that tide is known 100 or 200 years into the future. It's just a matter of scale. Let's go back to hydrogen. The first answer why EV haters have latched onto hydrogen. It's a bit complicated. They have a daily, weekly or monthly trek to the dreaded petrol station to fill up. It's a chore. They hate doing it, but they'll never admit it. It's all they know, and when they ask their parents or friends, they get the same answer every time. Oh, EVs, that's a fad. They catch fire, too expensive, they're ridiculous, batteries fail after 2 years. But you see, they also hate what they do. Look at the price. It's more than £1.40 a litre. Yeah, the actual cost of the petrol they're buying is about 30p. Yeah, really, 30p is about what it costs Shell or BP to produce a litre of petrol or diesel. So the final price you pay is made up of that 30p plus a healthy profit when they sell it to the wholesaler, which is the garage or the supermarket. So they will buy it at around 58p. Well, that's quite a markup. Talk about markup on electricity. These petrol companies, they have a huge markup when they sell it to the petrol stations or the supermarkets. But those poor dears, these oil giants, they do need all the money they can get, because it must be so expensive drilling up in the Arctic for fresh supplies all the time. Oh, anyway, that 58p now needs biofuel added. E10 is marked on the pump. That merely means that up to 10% biofuel is added. That's to try and stop some of the pollution that's produced when you burn fossil fuels rather than biofuels. Well, that adds about 16 pence to the price. Now, when the fuel is delivered to the garage, it's not done for free. Of course it isn't. They pay about 2p per litre for that. And then the wholesaler, he doesn't work for nothing. He wants a profit, so they'll add another profit, which is between 5 and 10 pence per litre. And finally, the greediest of them all, the government. It wants its cut. And they charge 49p fuel duty and then 20% VAT, not on the fuel duty alone, but on the fuel, the markup, the profit, the delivery, and the fuel duty they've just imposed. That totals over 26 pence. So you poor schmucks pay £1.50, and yet you know that less than 25% of that is for the fuel itself. The rest of it is all grabbed by all the greedy ones. And you fight like crazy to maintain this stupid, absurd, brutal system. How much do you pay to fill your tank? £100? What, and you do this every week or so? Are you stark raving mad? But no, of course not. You don't want to admit That you've been wrong all this time? No way. You're so comfortable doing this. Anything else is diving into the unknown. So, as EVs look like catching on, you can't openly admit you like what you're doing. That would make you sound like a madman. Nor will you entertain having an EV because all your mates have said one thing, but there's a bit more going on in the background or deeper down. So you pick at random something that sounds good and familiar and comfortable. An ICE car running on clean green hydrogen. Now, ICE in this context simply means what it says, internal combustion engine. Whether you're burning fossil fuels or green hydrogen, it's still an ICE car. Now, France has been in the news recently. They've launched a scheme to offer the poor and the needy a really cheap EV leasing deal. No deposit at all, costs about £80 a month, and you get a brand new EV. No catch, no strings. Now, all of you EV haters, answer me honestly if you were offered a brand new EV, not a silly little one, but something like a Citroen C3e or a Renault 5e, 5-door hatchback, for £80 a month. Would you take it? That's less than you pay each month for your petrol, even if you only do the UK average 8,000 miles a year and get 40 miles to the gallon. Of course you'd take it. Nobody in their right mind would choose to pay £100 a month on petrol, plus servicing and repairs and interest on a loan, if you could get a brand new EV for just £80 a month. Nobody. But they will tell you, oh, I wouldn't even accept one even if it was offered free. Really? Okay, so why are they touting hydrogen? It doesn't make sense. See, hydrogen is just a different fuel to petrol. You will still not be able to make your own like you can with electricity and EVs. You will still have to go to the same petrol stations, only now they'll be called hydrogen filling stations. You have to go once a day, once a week, or once a month, depends on your mileage. But all this is familiar to you. You'll still end up paying the same fossil fuel company, their exorbitant marked up prices, but now you'll have to buy a new car too. They haven't thought of that one. That's crazy. If they can't afford an EV, they definitely can't afford a hydrogen fuel cell car. Your old car cannot run on hydrogen. So if it ever did catch on, they would have to ditch their old car, buy a new one, hydrogen one, and end up exactly where they are today. Trips to the hydrogen fueling station and a tank full at what price? Oh, not £100 again, surely not. But yes, if the petrol companies stiffed you for £100 to fill your tank with petrol, the hydrogen would be at least as dear as petrol was, probably an awful lot dearer. It's new. So why do they hate EVs? It can't be because the government is forcing them to buy an EV, because if hydrogen actually takes off, they will be forced to buy a new hydrogen-powered car, and not by the government. They just won't be able to get petrol if the new fuel is hydrogen. They will have to scrap their old car and go and get a hydrogen one. They won't be forced. They'll have no choice. So what gives? Well, the answer is a strange one. It's something called confirmation bias, and we are all guilty of it to some degree. Now, it's a fact that we will generally vote for the same party as our parents do. It's also a fact that most people will stick with the first bank account they open. That's why the banks all fight with themselves to attract the students to open up an account with them. They'll support the same football team as one or both of their parents. And then they'll go online with social media, YouTube, banking or Amazon. And the media will look at all this, they've got access to it all, and they will then send you promotions and articles and videos and news articles that they know will not only appeal to you, but will fit in with your lifestyle and life choices you've already made. The one job of the media is to get you watching or clicking on whatever they put in front of you for as long as you possibly can. You don't believe me? Quick test right now. Well, no. Watch this video first, but straight afterwards, go on Google or YouTube or Facebook or something and just pick a product or service you've never seen before, no interest in, not even thought about. I did. I chose having a slug as a pet. I looked at a few sites. There are some. And then I forgot all about it. But a few days later, I started getting adverts for slugs and reptiles as pets, or gardening, or nature products. It was all tailored to that one search I did on one day. Now, when EVs came out, confirmation bias made sure they already knew if they liked them or hated them, long before you even looked at one, if indeed you ever have to this day. Most people had already made up their minds and wouldn't waste their time looking at something they either don't want or don't afford or don't believe works. But as an EV hater, the media will send you adverts for petrol cars. It will suggest ICE car videos and send you news items that tell you that EVs, well, they're rubbish, knowing you'll read them to the very end to reinforce your predetermined hatred. See? Told you they were useless, they catch fire, or they produce more pollution than ICE cars. Now, I have asked many people, really calmly and quietly, just in general discussion, why do you actually hate EVs? And when they own up to it, they actually have no logical answer. They'll just spout word for word the drivel they're fed. Well, I would, but... Well, true or false, they actually believe every word without question. And they pass it on to anyone and everyone who will listen. And this can sometimes be so strong that the reason disappears out the window. Some people, generally, if offered a totally free brand new EV, will tell you they would refuse it. Really? So they'll refuse a brand new car? Any sane person would accept it, and if they hated it, just make a quick phone call to WeBuyAnyCar.com and pocket the money. But no, they actually say and want you to believe that they would just turn it down, refuse it. And the trouble is, I believe them. I believe some of them would turn it down. And that is lunacy. Now, there is no hope because some of them actually would refuse. It's so deep in their indoctrination. That's why I very rarely take the bait and reply to them directly. If a supposedly sane person would actually turn down a £40,000 brand new EV for free, there is no hope in talking to them, no hope of getting through. And the really nice thing is, we don't need to convert them because one day, in the not too distant future, they will have no choice. If they've managed to convince enough people that hydrogen is the answer, they will be forced to go out and buy a hydrogen fuel cell car. Ha! That'll teach them. If they don't convince enough people to go hydrogen, one day the only options for them will be to buy an EV. Now that will be a fun conversion to watch. I'm Dave. Thanks for watching.